A deal has been cut in New York State. Governor Andrew Cuomo is in the middle of it to bail out 4 old, decrepit nuclear power plants in upstate New York. But the deal is being fought. Susan Shapiro is an attorney representing plaintiffs challenging this bailout. Next on Enviro Close-Up.
Apparently there was a deal that has given Exelon $7.6 billion of ratepayer money for the next 12 years to keep 4 nuclear power plants operational upstate New York. We don't know whether that money was actually needed. They never looked at the finances as to whether there was a need. They changed the standard that is normally used if you're going to subsidize a company, an energy company, from the cost of operations to a brand new concept that's based on that nuclear somehow now is good for the environment, that it's environmentally a benefit, and that it's called the social cost of carbon, and they're basing it on this concept that's a brand new concept, and it increased the amount from a few billion to $7.6 billion, and they literally inserted themselves into the clean energy standard, which was designed for renewables, to fund renewables, and now renewables in the program are dwarfed by the amount the nukes are getting. So renewables are not going to make it in New York. They're getting $1 billion over 10 years, and you got the nuclear plants getting $7.6 billion of our ratepayer money. We're not making a transition to clean energy. They're claiming it's some sort of bridge to clean energy. And the biggest fraud of the whole thing is they're calling nuclear zero emissions. And based on the claim that nuclear is zero emissions, that's why they're financing, that's why we, all the ratepayers in New York State, are paying $7.6 billion. There are no exemptions for anyone, even if you were an early adopter of renewable energy. There's no exemptions for anyone. Everyone has to pay this money and has already paid it. In the last year, we've already paid $480 million to Exelon. And it's one company that's receiving, one foreign, out-of-state company that's receiving all this money. This is a new paradigm that the nuclear industry has created. It's a new PR campaign that nuclear is, zero emissions, and therefore they should get subsidies. It's not just happening here in New York, it's happening all over the country, but we are the only case that has survived. There's been other legal challenges that have been brought, but all the other cases have been dismissed. We have not been dismissed. 5 of our petitioners, of 56 of petitioners, got through, and the judge are allowing us now to go forward on the merits of the case. And so that's where we are right now. We're in the middle of drafting our reply briefs. We need to hire some expert witnesses to come on board, and we're fundraising as well, but that's where we are.
Now, Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York he's arranged for the shutdown of the Indian Point nuclear power plants. Why, if he is against Indian Point operating, and that's just about 35 miles north of Times Square, would he be allowing these 4 nuclear plants further upstate, near some big cities, however, to continue to operate?
This is my personal belief for closure of Indian Point, which is not what everyone says it is. It's not closing in 21 and 20. It's closing in 24, 25. They already got their licenses till then. They'll keep operational till then. We will all soon be paying the subsidy to Indian Point as well to keep them open, because they've already said we financially are not viable anymore. That's all they have to say, is we're not financially viable. But we do know a lobbyist from Exelon proudly announced, with slides that show money going down a toilet drain, that they spent $500 million, $110 to buy Fitzpatrick and $400 million for lobbying, and they're getting this windfall 750% return on their investment. Isn't that great? And it's acknowledged that there were many, many phone calls prior to this deal going through. We know that it started with Andrew Cuomo in January of 2016, writing a letter saying, I want nuclear included in the clean energy standard. Nuclear was never ever considered as part of the clean energy standard. It was never part of any proposal. It had actually been removed from prior drafts. And now suddenly nuclear is basically the elephant in the room, taking the lion's share of the money, and is going to really dwarf renewables and kill renewables in New York State. That's really what the end game is. I believe the end game of this whole PR campaign, this whole push for all these subsidies, is to kill renewables.
Now, how is now it's 7.6 billion now that is to be raised in the next 12 years. If you throw Indian Point in, it could be more than $10 billion.
Easily.
How is it going to be raised from ratepayers, including businesses and nonprofits and schools in New York State? How is it going to work?
Well, they said it was going to be a surcharge and that we were going to see it separated on our bills, but it's already been inputted right into the rate. So everyone in New York knows that their rates went up last year. They went up by at least $2 a month minimum. That's what they're claiming, $2 a month. We believe it's quite a bit higher a month. Certainly for businesses, it's a lot higher. And that's how they're raising the money. It's already in our rate. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be a surcharge so you can see it and identify it, but they just slipped it into the rate.
Can the bailout now be stopped?
It can be stopped if we win this lawsuit. We believe not only was the bailout, the substance of the bailout wrong, but the procedure by which they did the bailout was sloppy. It was a rush. They didn't allow for public comment. They changed the standards at the last minute, and they didn't allow for public comment because Exelon said you have to close it by a certain date. And they made the entire deal contingent on the sale of Fitzpatrick. So it's very obvious when you really dig into it that this was done for the benefit of Exelon and at the behest of Exelon.
Although the political fix seems to be in, Susan Shapiro is leading the legal fight against this $7.6 billion, and it could be more if Indian Point is thrown in, bailout. It's a model of bailing out the nuclear industry, which, if it succeeds, could spread nationally. I'm Karl Grossman.